Welcome back. As you can see, I've got scientifically accurate blueprints for both the Mirage and the A10C, and NASA were kind enough to send me a particle accurate picture of a wing. So on the left, your intuition is telling you that this is fast, but I've also put fast there just so you can tell. Now, a Mirage is like a delta wing, so what that means is it's designed to go fast. There's less drag, it's designed to cut through the air. The problem with that being that it can't go at slower speeds. If it goes at slower speeds, it's going to fall out of the sky, and it doesn't really have much wing area. If you have a look at the right side, you can see that we've got the A10 there. Now, looking at the blue lines, you can kind of tell that I'm showing or demonstrating, trying to demonstrate that there's more drag, there's more turbulence in the air around these types of wings as compared to the fast Mirage. The A10 has a conventional wing, basically, something that you would have seen day in and day out. Now, it does have a lot of wing space, but it generates more drag than it does the Mirage on the left side. So because it's got a larger wing and it's got more wing area, it generates more lift, which means that it can fly slower. So it depends on what you're actually looking for. Obviously, if you want a fast mover, you go for the configuration on the left. If you want something that can go slow, and there are reasons why you would want to go slow, you go for the configuration on the right. Now, if you have a look down the bottom at NASA's picture they've sent me, we can see a red line in there. Now that's the chord line which goes from the leading edge to the trailing edge, and that is the line of which we base the angle of attack, and that's the angle of how we're attacking the air. Now these blue lines that are there to represent air, as you can see, they're scientifically perfect. Air goes over the top and air goes over the bottom. Now, like I said, we're not going to go into the mathematics, we're not going to look at lift coefficients or anything like that. But if you want to know more about how this works, Bernoulli's theorem will kind of show you how this functions. So we're creating pressure at the bottom and we've got a vacuum at the top. Things have since changed, but as far as I'm aware, 2/3 of the lift generated by the wing is by the vacuum on the top side. Whether NASA have changed their mind on that, I don't know, but I did see there was a bit of discussion about it, but that's for something else. So wind travels over the top at a different speed than the air under the wing, and that generates a vacuum and some pressure. Now, why do you need to learn this? Well, DCS does actually model this stuff, surprisingly, and they model it quite well. If you go onto the YouTube page for Digital Combat Simulator, you can see a video on there that demonstrates wake turbulence. So wake turbulence is also in there, and that gets blown around by the wind too. It's more pronounced. If you want to see it yourself, you can actually fly behind larger aircraft and get that wake turbulence effect. So you can see that it is modeled. Now the green line on the bottom of the wing that I've got there is supposed to be demonstrating the flaps when the flaps are out. So what we're doing when we drop the flaps down is we're changing the configuration of the wing, so we're getting more wing area. The problem with that being we're actually generating more drag when we do that, so that affects the speed and the aerodynamics of the aircraft. So we're also deflecting more air down, generating more lift. So we can generate more lift by putting the flaps down, but we're generating more drag, which means we can't go fast, but we get more upward power through the wing. Now, with the A10 video, when you watched me land in the Super Green series, you'll notice that when the gear comes out in the A10, the nose goes down, and we'll talk about the velocity vector a little bit later. That's the little circle with the two little wings out the side of it and the tail. When the gear comes out, we're generating drag at the bottom of the aircraft, which pulls the nose down. But then when we're slow enough and the flaps come out, you'll see the velocity vector fly up, because now we're changing path. We're generating more lift, so the nose wants to go up and the aircraft wants to go up. So as you can see, it is definitely modelled in DCS. Another thing when it comes to drag, anything you put on the aircraft is going to add weight as well. So it's not just the landing gear, which is not an aerofoil, it's not designed to cut through the air. That's basically just a chunk of metal that's hitting the wind, which pulls the nose down. When you put bombs, extra fuel tanks, anything like that, that also generates more weight and more drag on the aircraft. So configurations might need to be changed depending on how much weight you're flying with and how much drag you're generating. So that is something to think about when you're trying to get into the sim side of DCS. I might do a joke video later, I think, where we compare a simulator with an arcade game. You can turn on infinite fuel and infinite ammo and all that kind of stuff, but when you get into the sim, you'll also notice that fuel consumption comes into play as well. Take for instance the A10C. It is possible to fly at maybe 230 knots, 250 knots with a low angle of attack, but you're going to be using a lot of fuel. Now if you want to stay in the air, which originally the A10C is designed for that, you have a large loiter time so you can pick off targets and work your magic. If you understand the configuration, you can put yourself at a good angle of attack with the nose up, not so much power in the engines, and you can actually loiter for about 2 hours. So that'll give you 2 hours of flight time, just simply based on the angle of attack alone. So these things do become quite important, and they are handy to at least understand or have a knowledge that they exist when you go into DCS. And like I said, this stuff isn't accurate for real world. We're not going into maths, we're not going into too much, but if you want, you can look at Bernoulli's theorem. But DCS does model this stuff. So if you want to get good, with an I and a U, get good, learning a little bit more about the angle of attack and the aerodynamics does definitely help. So what we're going to do in the next few episodes, we're going to run through vectors, bearings, weather, because obviously the density of the air is going to change that. The angle of attack and everything, the amount of lift you're generating is actually changed by the density of the air. Remember I hinted about that in the Super Green series, the inches in mercury or the hectopascals. That will affect the amount of lift that you're generating, how the aircraft flies through the air, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to watch. I'm here to get you guys from zero to hero as fast as I can. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again.